Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is just gone 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and in about 50 minutes, once again, I am going to scoot my boot and get myself ready for work. And kind of what I was getting to a lot yesterday, from here on in, it's not necessarily an uphill battle, but there is still the long held expectation to try and impress more often than not, mostly because aspirations of getting promoted at work before the year is over are not quite extinct. It just so happens that the only way I am going to even get slightly so much as a look in is by being better than everyone else, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's certainly doable. I don't dissuade the idea that it's impossible, because nothing is impossible. And speaking of nothing being impossible, there was a bit of interesting news I wanted to share, because one of the new channels that I am running is specifically tailored towards independent animators, and there's been surprisingly quite a lot of news about the state of Hollywood and whether or not it can actually continue to thrive if the medium of animation had been completely wiped off the face of the earth. I mention it because apparently Disney released a new show on Disney Playhouse called Ozzie Jr., and it is the first full-length program Disney has released that is entirely made using artificial intelligence. And this has, surprisingly enough, rubbed quite a lot of people the wrong way, because it's a complete slap in the face to people who spent years going to school, people who've been wanting to work in the industry for many, many years, and all of a sudden they are scared out of their wits, thinking that they're going to be replaced by machines, or even worse than that, higher executives are just going to lay off all their staff before a major film that they're going to release gets out, and it cuts a lot of people from obtaining any credit they rightfully deserved. Because of all of these things, and there's many more besides, but the point is this, is that last night I had a very, very interesting drive home, because I was half ping-ponging back in my mind about what exactly did I really think about all of this. But I was also trying to think of something a little bit more profound to say, rather than just what anyone else would say on the surface level. And I think I even mentioned this in a video that I did for this other channel, but I may as well say it again now. For the first time on camera, or the first time I'm going to admit it to the world, and it is this. Even last week, one of my previous jobs, where I actually had to mandle those huge industrial scrubber machines that have this sort of spinning contraption underneath, and you're supposed to push it back and forth and it cleans the floor. Last week, I actually saw a completely autonomous scrubbing machine powered by artificial intelligence. No human operator or driver whatsoever. It was being able to handle itself. Honestly, if I was still at a job like that, I fancy it shouldn't be long before I could have been made redundant in a previous job because of stuff like that. And with the uprising of artificial intelligence, this might be, since last night, for the very first time in my life, I saw the real value, or I saw absolutely what it really meant when I say that for the first time, I am truly, truly fighting for my rights. And it's happened. I am now officially in the fight for my rights. But what exactly are my rights? That's a very, very, it's a very, very interesting question, because I think I know on the surface level, based on, things like British values about what my rights are in a democratic society like Britain, because, and yes, by the way, Great Britain is still a democratic society. A lot of people may disagree with that, but no, I still maintain Britain is still a very democratic society. It's just sometimes trying to keep it that way is not anywhere near as simple as it sounds. But what I am going to say is that the first thing that I suppose the only other thing to ask is, well, what immediately springs to mind when I say fighting for my rights? Well, in cases, what I saw last night, fighting for my rights means that I feel like I should be rewarded for the work that I do in any field or any capacity. And I think once you numb it down to the most basic of levels first, that is probably the best place to go. All the other sedentaries, like trying to do things creatively or trying to construct a new theory of mind, some of those qualities may be a little bit more godlike or more ethereal, but in point of times they should come afterwards. Right now, the most basic forms of human needs should be the centerfold, the very base for everything going forwards. And the most base of them is that, well, labourers deserve their wages. I absolutely do. That I think that's about as fundamental and is about as basic as it gets. And I suppose from that point onwards, things become elevated, such as, amongst many other things, labourers deserve their dignity. Because the business of petulant firings, so studios can literally coin in all the profit and recognition, that feeling of injustice and indignity is absolutely inherent in working class life. 1,000 influences constantly will press a working man down into the most passive of roles in any industry on this earth. A working man does not act, he is acted upon. He feels himself being reduced to nothing more than the cog slave of a mysterious authority who believes that they will never allow him to do this, that, and the other. There's a fantastic passage, by the way, in things like, George Orwell's work that absolutely describes in the most bleakest detail the plight of working class society as far back as the 1930s in Great Britain. And you may think, and even by our even 90 years on, we have it really, really good, because this is nothing compared to what some people had to face 90 years ago. Constant shortage of work, disability, dying at work, housing shortages, a serious lack of housing in the north of England, and even by our record, again, we have it a really, really good 90 years on. However, that doesn't mean to say that the war is won. The war continues very much the same as before. The battle seems only slightly different. But that doesn't mean it's any less different or it's any less worth fighting for. And I'll just end this by what I said in a previous video, is that as somebody who studied in animation, somebody who had high aspirations of working for the likes of Disney or Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, I just want to say, for the record, at the risk of alienating some people, is that I hope other people think of the idea of fighting for their rights as well, because you run the risk of losing the war before you've ever stepped onto the battlefield. But with that being said, I'll see all of you guys again next time. So, yes, things are continuing, but it's giving me more insight to realizing just how big being involved in all of this is starting to become. A little larger than myself.